So 10 years ago, I created a video at the Georgia Aquarium that resonated very, very deeply with people. And the theme of that video was that the only constant is you.
What I want to talk to you about today is the idea of faith, and faith that whatever experiences that you're having at the time are leading you towards the best possible outcome, and most importantly, are leading you towards becoming the person, the best possible person who you're capable of becoming. So what do I mean by that? All right, well, I guess I could start off with the classic example of the guy who gets dumped by his girlfriend. She leaves him and he craves her. He wants her back. He wants the experience of her skin. He wants the experience of her voice, of her smell, of her, in his bed, just waking up every day. And he's frustrated when she leaves. He's sad. And, he's sensing that maybe there's a deeper reason to this. Maybe there's some deeper lesson. But he's not necessarily willing to see it. And instead what he wants to do is to manipulate her to come back, to say whatever he needs to say to her to make him come back, ignoring the more profound significance in this sort of like transient experience in his life. How about even on a initial meeting of a woman? Let's say that you meet a girl, you're talking to her, you go to the bathroom for a minute, and you come back and she's talking to some other guy. And he's less needy than you. He asserts himself into the situation better than you do. He's having more fun in the venue than you. He is playing to win, not playing to not lose. And again, you think, how could I steal her back from him? How could I get her away from him? I feel bad. I want to feel good. I want the surface level experience of having her back with me. But instead, there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity to say, what lessons can I get from this? What are the deeper, more profound things that will help me to become that best possible version of myself? I think that this is in everything. It's in all aspects of life. But in success with women, there's a lot that's going on. I want you to imagine a thought experiment right now. It's a little bit off the wall, but I want you to imagine that there's almost like a feminine spirit, and it's like a universal feminine spirit, and it kind of shines through women. Women are like, her thinking mind is like the almost like a crystal that light is shining through. And I want you to imagine that there's like a masculine spirit, and that's within yourself. So maybe you've had an experience where you dated a girl who's kind of crazy, and even despite the fact that she had maybe bad habits or something, you were irresistibly drawn towards this girl. Why did that happen? It happened not necessarily because of the girl, but because of that femininity that kept bringing you back in. Well, likewise as a man, part of that quote-unquote masculine spirit is the idea that you're abundant, the idea that you're free from outcome, that you're present to the moment, that you're clear in your intent, that you know how to project yourself into the world. And when you lose connection with that, what happens? Well, what I believe happens is that feminine energy that's in her says, I need to go away now. I need to leave. And on an external experience level, that might manifest itself in her being mean to you, becoming angry, becoming confused, maybe even yelling at you. And you keep thinking, why is she yelling at me? How can I make her come back? But instead what you think is, she's left now. Why has that feminine energy left me? And you say, there's a lesson here, a lesson that I need to come back to center. I need to come back to those overarching principles that are so important in my experience of life. Ultimately in your life, there's only one constant. It's you. Everything that you see around you is a passing, transient experience. It's gonna come and it's gonna go. You might be stimulated for a little while, like when you ate a great meal, but when you think back to it, you can barely remember it. And all that's left is that person who you are now. So have faith. Have faith that the journey is leading you somewhere. Have faith in the journey and make it a higher priority than the surface level experience.
So I want to bring my kids to the Georgia Aquarium for a very, very long time. I finally got them here.
One of them is a little smaller than the other. So sharks.
You like the sharks?
Yeah. I want to see the shark whale.
Well, look, we're just facing each other. Whatever's do you like? Yeah. Why do you want to leave? Exactly.
It's amazing to be back at the Georgia Aquarium and reminisce on the past 15 years of my life. And I shot the original video back when I was maybe in my late 20s or early 30s. I'm sitting here at 44 years old in Atlanta. Just read an amazing event here this weekend. And I think about what is the difference in my life from back then until now. And in a weird way, I'm still the same guy. I'm sitting here in the same mental movie. I'm a decade and a half closer to my death. I don't want to die any more now than I did back then. I'm vibrant. I have so much life to live. But there's a clear deepening in the subjective experience that you have at age 44 compared to your late 20s or early 30s. And that clear deepening of subjective experience is that you have been in states of mind and spiritually where you're very, very grounded and centered within yourself. What I'd like to think of as being connected to God, which I think any human being can do. And then you'll have these periods where, just like in the Bible, they'll call it the golden calf or worshiping the golden calf, you'll find something to worship other than your connection to God, or other than being grounded, or other than being centered, or other than being connected to the energy and flow of life. You'll find these other things that kind of pull you in. And it's funny to think about things like, say, social skills or making money or building a business as being something that could actually be a very, very profound spiritual experience. And we tend to think of these things as anti-spiritual experiences, such as if you start making money, you'll start to identify yourself with your money. Oh, I am my big house. I am my car. I am my money. I am my watch. I am my, I don't know. What funny thing would a rich guy have? You know, a giant swimming pool full of cash that you could jump into like Scrooge McDuck, right? Like I am those things. Or you might think about things like social skills, like I am the people who I socialize with, or I am the people who I date. I am, you know, the sensation of the person who I'm intimate with, and so on and so forth, right? I am the ego gratification of people who validate me and hook up with me, or things like that. So we tend to think about things like social skills or making money as anti-spiritual. But I think that depends on the way in which you're experiencing it. Because if you're truly deeply identified with your money or social validation or your ego or things like that, like if you're truly, truly, truly deepening your identification with that, well then yeah, I guess those things actually take you away from God, take you away from your spirit, take you away from being grounded, take you away from being centered. But what I think happens is that actually, if you pursue the fruits of life in general, what will tend to happen is you will get them to some extent, but what you'll find is you can never totally get your ducks in a row. You know what I mean, right? Like that's what I found. I can't tell you how freaking hard it is to just get your ducks in a row to where they'll stay in a row. So when you're in a business, you'll have everything from staff who make little mistakes that cost you tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, and it is crazy. Or you'll have, you know, this machine that you've built that will explode and break down. You'll have periods where the economy is good, where the economy is bad. You'll have periods where your offer is working, your product's working, your marketing is working, and there's periods where you don't and you lose a lot of money. I've been bankrupted several different times, not legally bankrupted, but in effect just wiped out several different times over the course of my business career. And I can tell you that every single time that that's happened, it is very, very, very painful, but I'll often sit there in a state of, to be honest, like it's happened a few times because I run a counterculture type of business, so I'm doing pretty much everything right, but there's just certain forces that kind of block you, and they can hit you pretty hard, a lot harder than I really let on here. And what'll happen is you're sitting there in financial ruin, and you just look up at the sky, and you say, you know what? I'm kind of still here. You know, I'm still here. I'm still here. And it's a beautiful experience to realize that, like, I'm not my money. I'm still here. I still have my life. And most importantly is that I have the lessons to go rebuild it. And then you rebuild it faster, better, stronger, your skills deepen. And it's actually from kind of coming out of that reality tunnel of the money and so on and getting back to center, just getting back to who you actually are. That will ground you in a way that weirdly and paradoxically and surprisingly, you become more effective. Like you actually become more effective because you've been cut down to size, because you've been chopped down at the knees. You actually come back stronger than you did in the past. And you're stronger because you're less identified with that which it is that you built. You're actually just more identified in the flow of life itself. You're more identified in the grounding itself. But because of that, you can funnel more energy of life, more energy of creation into what it is that you're doing. You're not attached to it, and you have better will, better discernment. You have more energy because you have unfettered access to a flow state, because it's through getting chopped down that you actually get re-reminded that you have access to a transcendent state whenever you want, and you can't rely on ducks being in a row to get that. And I can tell you it's the exact same thing with social skills, where you go out and you meet somebody who you really like, and you know, maybe you run off on an adventure together, maybe you start dating. maybe you hook up that night. And what happens, you really, really, really like this person. But you'll find there's a funny thing with social skills, which is that anytime you get a little too attached, it winds up messing with the flow of energy to where when you weren't attached and you were just connected to the energy of life, the energy is an outflow. And in the same way that a plant turns into the sun naturally, people are naturally attracted to you when you're connected to the energy of life and not just attached to them and only them and kind of just say sucking energy from them. So what happens is that you meet somebody who you really, really, really like. And to be honest, maybe somebody who you deeply love. You see qualities in them and the chemistry that you guys have together and the reality that you guys could build together, and you love them. You just love them. And in some cases, you get a little too attached, and oftentimes that messes with the energetic flow and they pull back. And it really sucks. It's actually very, very sad. And I can tell you that, that's happened to me, whether that's in an interaction that lasts 10 minutes. It's happened to me many times. Interactions that have happened over an hour, interactions over a night. It could be an interaction over a week. And what's really sad is sometimes that could be an interaction over like 3-4 years. Like, you have like a 3-4 year relationship, and then you realize like that was kind of just like a 3-year set. And then I just went beta and I just mess up the set. Same way that you would in a social interaction where you go a little bit beta and it messes up, and that can happen 3 years deep, and then the person flips. And, you miss that love and you miss that person dearly, and you miss what it is that you had together, and you love them and wish them the best. And it hurts, it really hurts incredibly bad. It's like having your head smashed in by a frying pan if you really love somebody. It's like a knife in your heart over and over and over. And you can feel that way, having a hard time even breathing or sleeping for several months. For some people, it could last, I hate to say this, but a couple years if it was somebody that you loved that much and that you were that connected to. But what happens again is that through that process, you still miss that person and you wish that it could have worked out. But you also, via the process of getting back to yourself, getting back to being grounded, getting back to being centered, even though you wish that that person could be there with you as this more evolved version of yourself, and it sucks that they can't, probably not destiny, but you also realize that as much as that wasn't your intention to happen, the person that you became in the process over that year or two, you wouldn't trade for the world. And what's weird is you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And as you grow through that process of letting go of being attached to something else and getting back to center, getting back to being grounded, getting back to being connected, getting back to being tapped in, getting back to being who you are, which really what we are is we are not just our mind or our ego, but we are that spark of life. I have that spark of life in me that currently animates me and my body, my brain for now. If you're watching this while I'm still alive, if you're watching after I'm dead, it's left. And likewise, and what's up from the other side? And we can choose to identify anywhere, right? Like in our ego and our attachments, but we can also choose to identify in our soul. And it's when things get pulled away from us that we realize that your life is an infinite journey of learning and expansion and getting better. And anything that is weak or fake in you will be burned away. And it will be burned away very, very, very painfully. But in that process, in that micro dose of hell, that micro dose of being in hell that you go through, in a weird way, that is very cleansing, right? What is the idea of hell? If you were to go to hell, is that pain would cleanse you of your sins, right? But sin is not just, like you stole a chocolate bar from 7-Eleven. A sin is just when you're no longer connected, when you're no longer tapped in. And then the mistakes that you make in the process of worshiping that golden calf, that metaphorical golden calf, that thing outside yourself. And there's nothing more beautiful than when you get back to being yourself, and then maybe you get in that next relationship or you make that next money. But again, now that you're reconnected to the energy and to the flow of life, you can channel that and funnel that in, and surprisingly, you wind up making more money, way more money, although it's painful and it's a journey and it doesn't come right when you want it. It frankly comes oftentimes when you let go, get back to center, get back energized from being tapped in, and then genius comes, you work harder, you get more focus, you funnel that energy in, and you do even more amazing. And likewise, you often wind up meeting somebody even more compelling or attractive, or someone who you're even more deeply connected to. And it sucks when it happens, and it sucks that it works that way. But imagine if that person maybe who left you had just stayed with you. And imagine if whatever friction that existed, you just stuck in there and you just allowed that to be there, how you would have lost yourself, how you would have become completely identified with them. They would have been in a win-lose relationship with you because they weren't willing to play fair with you. And as a result of that, you see a lot of older people who are with the wrong person or in the wrong job or the wrong occupation. And what winds up happening is you could just tell that they've had their soul dug out of their body. They don't have that light in the eyes anymore. Many older people are spiritually dead far before the body dies. And so what you realize is that the only constant is you. And it's via this process of life, this never-ending journey of your life, that you can become not only your best self, but also leave the greatest legacy for others. So we're going to hop over to that little waterfall over there just to wrap this up here in Atlanta. And I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this topic 15 years later from the time that we shot that original video.
Daddy,
Yes.
can we go to the next level?
Yeah, let's go, buddy. Come on, let's go, guys. So, like I said, I'm sitting here at 44 years old. It's been a decade and a half. What are the insights that I've had since then, at least on this subject? I think there's two different ways that you could see your life. One way that you could see your life is as just a physical body. And so whenever anything goes bad, you get super, super, super frustrated because you think to yourself, this is my life. This is my one life. And as a result of this, if it's going bad, I'm screwed. Now, the upside of that, and Ayn Rand talked about this in Atlas Shrugged, is that one of the benefits of atheism is that at least you take the life that you do know that you have at least a little bit more seriously. Some people who believe in God could just live a crappy life and make no effort. And as a result of that, they just say, I'm going to go to heaven someday. And I think that's actually a very much wrong approach. I think Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, amazing books. I think that was a powerful point that she had. You know, it can be the deferred life program when you believe in God. But in my view, a belief in God and a belief in something beyond just the body, I see that very, very differently. I view that as a call to engage. We're here and we're meant to engage. And we're actually here to make mistakes. I'm proud of my mistakes because I view mistakes as I tried my best to engage. I tried to engage fully. You know, maybe I opened myself up to a girl and I went all in and it really, really, really hurt on the way out. But I engaged. This year I did some amazing skiing. I did some of the best skiing in my life all over the country. I was all through Utah. I got the injury in Sun Valley, Idaho, actually where Tony Robbins got his injury. I was all over Colorado. I mean, it was just an incredible, incredible ski season. And I blasted my leg, you know, and yet in doing so, not only to have incredible, incredible experiences skiing with my sons, but just going through having my leg get shattered and the incredible physical pain of that taught me to be a much more patient person and taught me to have a much more high tolerance to pain. Also, frankly, taught me that if you can even just walk, that frankly, you should be grateful in life. So what would me just sitting at home, either being an atheist and saying, oh, I'm afraid to die, or maybe being a spiritual person saying, oh, I'm going to go to heaven someday, so I'm just going to sit at home. What would that have accomplished? It wouldn't have accomplished anything. Maybe the women that I've opened up to fully in my life and really hurt on the way out, well, I learned from that. I learned a lot from that. I got back to myself from that, even though I miss every amazing woman in my life that has ever been with me and who I'm grateful for. But in knowing that, I will be able to heal completely from any relationship I've ever been in. I heal much more quickly as I'm older, much, much more quickly. Not because I don't love the person. Actually, I feel that with age, I learn to love more fully. And then I'm also able to move forward more fully. It's kind of a paradox. You love at an incredible depth that you didn't know that you were capable of. But through the pain of past breakups, you're also able to move on more fully because you understand the nature of what that relationship was, which was a beautiful, beautiful experience with another soul. And really, you were partners in teaching each other, even if it didn't end so well. And so the way that I like to think about my life is rather than thinking about myself as some meat suit where if it doesn't go well, it's all ruined because this is my one life. And rather than thinking of myself as a spiritual person who's going to be lazy, waiting for Jesus to come back, and I'm just going to do nothing, the way that I think about it is that life is an opportunity to engage. And when we tap in, we tend to get this huge abundance of energy, really, really, really powerful connection to God's will and our ability to have that move through us and fuse our will to that because that is who we really are. Not that you are God, but you have that spark of divine energy in you. And you also get such incredible discernment. You see the world so much more clearly, and you just get a clearer idea of how it is that you want to act through the course of your life. And it's through these different mistakes and, going down these different reality tunnels and getting kind of attached and getting into it and losing yourself a little bit as you go down these different, you ran home with someone one night, or you made a bunch of money and then you lost it, or you met someone you liked and then you lost them, or, things like that, right? Reputation that you lost. I've actually had reputational damage, huge amounts of reputational damage over the course of my career because I tried to stand up for what I truly believe in. And when you do that, that comes with a price, right? If you try, standing up for what you believe in would not have any meaning if it didn't come with a price, which is reputational damage. So the way that I understand it is that, loss of reputation or loss of money or loss of a significant other, or, in life you'll also have a death of a friend and things that are even a lot worse than that, to be honest with you, and eventually you'll lose your own life. Well, that experience where you get so deeply into it, and then eventually you lose it, that brings you back to yourself, that brings you back to God, that brings you back to your soul. And then with each next step that you take, when you're sort of going through this sort of expansion and contraction, this yin and yang, as we'd say in Canada, as you go through it, the summer of life, the winter of life, and via this eternal process of infinite learning that we do, you realize that the only constant is God, the only constant is you, and that relationship that you have with your Creator. And through that relationship, as you cultivate it, that allows you to bring more of that energy, more of that grounded, beautiful energy into the world, and allows you to be a channel. And what I would say is that you can look at your life in some ways almost like a sober version of a psychedelic odyssey. Some people do things like ayahuasca or DMT. I don't. But I believe that life is an ayahuasca or DMT. That's actually life, where, and this is just my experience, every single one of my worst fears at different points, for the most part, has come true. Things that really scared me, things that were unacceptable to me came true. And what you realize over time is, I'm still here. The only constant is you. And via that process, it's actually very, very beautiful. They say fear to appear, and then it does appear. And you see that you're still here, and you experience a deeper relationship to life. You have a more refined palate to enjoy the subtleties of life. Life is more of a joyful, beautiful, rich experience for you. And it's something that you connect to in a way that is really, truly allowing the awakening of your soul. It is really living, not just sleepwalking through life, but living life at the fullest. So what I would say is, take that action. Take action. Go do things in life. And it's okay to get attached, because in my experience, those things that you're attached to, you're going to have them taken away. And as you're just sort of moving through that reality tunnel of this infinite journey of learning, like I said, you will realize that the only constant is you. And so this has been such a beautiful experience being here in Atlanta, getting to finally bring my children. It's amazing having children, and I hope that you'll have children, or adopt children if you don't, and getting to first have your own experience as a younger person, and then getting to bring your children into these beautiful places that you experience, and getting to experience it through their eyes and through their experience. And then that is the renewal of life, and it becomes fresh again. I cannot wait for my children to go have their own adventures, and hopefully that I built a foundation for them, and then for them to look back on these videos and remember their father, their mother, who took them around, and try to create a foundation for them, and they can live their own lives, and eventually they can have their own children. They can have their own children, and they can pay that forward as well. And that's what I'm trying to do in this video for you as well. And now the police are here. The only constant is the police and you. So by the way, as I'm leaving, I just remembered there's one piece I forgot. This is a super vital video. Just like they would say in psychedelics, which I don't do, don't resist the experience. The only constant is you. The more that you learn not to resist the experience, the better it'll be. You'll find that when something breaks, if you resist it, whether it's a breakup or a business issue, and you don't go to that next season of your life, you will pay in ways that you have no idea. But if you recognize that it's a transition of seasons, you will just float through life. And you have to have this down, because this is, in my view, forever. So, like I said, life is like a sober version of a psychedelic. I would never do a psychedelic. I value my sobriety 100%. I do also understand why people do it, though. And one of the reasons they do it, among many, is that it teaches you not to resist. And the more resistance that you have, the more scary and dark and dense and horrible the energy gets. But if you don't resist and you just kind of move through those scary parts, it actually teaches you the power of non-resistance and how to just move in non-resistance through life. So that component of non-resistance, when you've tried your best to fix something, but you can feel that the season's changing, do your best to take the lessons of it, but come back to that metaphor of the Georgia Aquarium and just allow yourself to float right through. What's gonna happen is, just like the car leaving, the problem will leave, and you're gonna be okay. Anyway, have a great night. I'm headed to Gatlinburg right now. I'll be back more soon. Peace.